Great. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Vallecitos Water Board for March 3rd, 2000 and, what year is it? 15. First thing we'll start with is call to order is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I would like to ask Troop 1108, these are third graders, Brownies, who are going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. They're from Discovery School. Would you like to do that?
Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That was the nicest one we've had. Truly. And just before we do roll call, I wanted to say the girls are going to be doing a tour of the facilities, but I did ask their cookie mom to bring in a list if she would like, so if any of us want to order cookies, they are selling them. So we might have a day or two to do that.
Are they going to get to go in the candy room, or is that going to be off limits?
Oh, that's a good question.
You're welcome.
That's me.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, back to business. Roll call, please, Diane.
Director Alazar?
Here.
Director Navis?
Here.
Director Martin?
Here.
Director Sinella?
Here.
Director Evans?
Here. Okay, we need a motion to adopt the agenda for the regular meeting.
Move to approve.
Move to approve, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, great. Oral communications, is there anyone in the audience, or do we have any? Is it okay if I would like to do an oral
You bet.
presentation at this moment? This is, first I want to say happy March. And then I want to tell you the most exciting thing that happened just as I left my house today. This month, my husband, Greg, as most of you know, draws the comic strip Luann. This month celebrates her 30th anniversary.
Wow.
So it's a pretty big deal. It's March 17th is actually the date. And the syndicate and my husband and my daughter, who now works with him, have kind of put some fun things together on the social media to celebrate this. So what I've done is I've made some little cards and passed them down. If you'll each take one, you can check it out at Go Comics, our Luann Comics. They're actually be having a tweeting session, and they'll have Facebook contests, and it's a pretty big deal for my husband because we didn't want to get involved in the internet, but when our daughter came on board, she thought, you gotta do this. And she's just got so many good ideas, and she is the original Luann. And part of what she's doing this month is she'll be doing snippets of the original Luann. But the call I got was from Tony Atkins, the Speaker of the Assembly, correct?
Yep.
She had called and talked to Greg about a week ago, and he was like, oh, please don't tell me you want to do a Luann license plate, because nobody's going to buy it. And but she loves comics, and she'd read Luann for forever, but she'd never connected it with San Diego. And she just discovered that, so she called, and she has invited Greg and my daughter and I to Sacramento on the Monday the 16th, I think it is, of this month to receive a proclamation, and she's thinking they may actually do a Greg Evans cartoon day. So I just had to get that out, and that's why this meeting is going to be really weird, because I am so excited. But I brought this along, and those little things, so you can pass them out to everyone. A lot of people don't know you can read it online. And the other exciting thing is Luann went from 13 to 16. She's now 18. She is now in college, and the strip is not really a teenage strip anymore. It's just
cool.
a really fun. You have marriages pending and all sorts of good things. So I hope you'll get a chance to check her out. And thank you for the indulgence. I truly appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Madam President?
Thank you. Yes,
Does
sir.
that mean the comic strip with my name on it is just increasing value?
I would imagine after you and Greg and my daughter die, it will be very valuable. Save it for the
Good.
kids, yes.
Somebody will benefit.
Actually, he does it all on the Cintiq now. There are no originals. It's all on internet. It has been for about 10 years. So originals will eventually,
Be original.
if you know someone who wants to buy it, will be
Yeah.
original.
Okay. Oh, good.
Thank you. I'm so embarrassed, but I just was so excited.
No, no, it was it.
Okay, moving on to the consent calendar. Do we have a motion for approval as is, or do we need to speak about any of the articles?
Move to approve.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion and a second for approval of the consent calendar. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Any abstaining? Okay, moving on. Action item 2.1. This is the award of a construction contract for Twin Oaks Reservoir on-site generation of sodium hypochlorite.
This one will be kind of a tag team if need be, but this is one of the projects that operations has, trying just to modify our systems, keep it up to speed and improve safety. So Ed's actually going to present these two items to you because he's got the more in-depth background on what they're for.
Thank you, Mr. Lamb. Madam Chair, members of the board, beginning on page 26 of your board packet is the Twin Oaks Reservoir on-site generation project that was approved in the 2014-15 budget. As you might remember from your facility tours, the Twin Oaks Reservoir facility uses 100% chlorine gas as disinfection, both going into the reservoirs off the San Diego County Water Authority's aqueduct and then leaving the reservoirs again before going to the distribution system. Excellent as a disinfectant, been used for over 100 years. However, as you might remember too, I had to give you a OSHA talk about its acute respiratory hazard. So we've been looking for better technologies over the years, and the entire industry actually is moving that way. Director Ellertharp, I'm sure, is very familiar with US EPA risk management program and OSHA's process safety management program. Very intense, takes a lot of staff time, can be very expensive. This will completely remove all of those requirements. The bleach that will be generated by the on-site generation equipment is only 0.8%, which is less than the 1%, which would make it a hazardous material. So we remove any acute hazard. There will no longer be any hazard on that site other than the diesel fuel that's in the generator. Instead of chlorine gas being delivered, we'd have large quantities of salt. And that's it. There were 4 companies that make this product, and we put out a request for bid to those 4 companies. 2 of them were non-responsive, 2 that did respond. James and I went over all of the material and the quotes, made sure we went out with the companies and got good installation and construction prices. After reviewing all of that, staff recommends awarding the project to PSI in the amount of $474,900, subject to provisions of the contract, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? I just have one. What happens with all the chlorine gas and stuff that's there?
Well, it's injected into the water in order to
Oh, so you
disinfect the
just-
water. So the gas that's there right now is just being used as disinfectant, but we will remove all the gas equipment. If you remember that big, large thing sitting outside the scrubber, that goes away. We drop a salt tank there instead.
Does that go on our list of things
Yes.
to sell?
Yes, you'll see it come back to you.
All right. Yes, Director Hernandez.
This conversion in the contract, is that an annual renewal? Is that forever? One-time deal?
This is capital cost and installation, so no, the only recurring costs will be salt and power. So
Very good.
we actually, as far as chemicals are concerned, we'll actually lower our chemical cost, increase in power, but lower our chemical cost. I just working on the budget today, so salt's a little cheaper than chlorine.
Well, then I think that power item segues right into a question I was going to ask you about. I heard that there is legislation afoot for small hydro generator approvals with the one-page application. Now, I don't know if that's true or not. I know we had, in one of my tours, the power, the main water line, we were anticipating putting some hydroelectric, something in there.
Yeah, that was actually a project that James and I worked on last year, and it didn't make it through the initial cuts of the budget process. It's pretty expensive and didn't really pencil out. But that was part of the problem too, is that the regulatory costs are extremely high, and we're waiting for federal government to cut
If
that.
those regulations change, will that make it more feasible to?
We'll certainly look at the numbers again.
Okay. All right, well, bring me up to date on that in an annual basis or so.
Sure.
Yes, Director Martin.
Ed, speaking of penciling out, talk to me about penciling out of this project.
What are you looking for?
Well, you're gonna have a decreased use in chemical
Mhm.
costs. You're only gonna have salt and electricity costs, correct?
Right.
Is there a net savings?
You won't see it as far as to pay back the capital expenditure. Usually it takes 10 to 15 years for you to get the return on investment on that big of a capital project. City of Escondido, Liebenheim Water District, they're using the same company, and that's information I got back from them as far as how long it takes to really get a payback.
So about 15 years is what you're guesstimating for a payback?
It may be less than that, but a conservative estimate would be about 15 years, yeah.
Thank you.
Director Sinella.
And I just wanted to add, since Director Martin asked the question, kind of looking at everything from a risk management standpoint, because that's what I do for a living. My understanding too, from taking the tours with you, Ed, that going to the salt-based system versus the chlorine is both safer for our employees and also the surrounding neighbors, correct?
Absolutely.
So that reduces some of our risks, should there have been some sort of emergency.
You remember that talk we had, yes.
I did, yes.
Yeah, our neighbors will certainly appreciate it, as well as the employees.
So although that's not a tangible ROI, it's certainly something that we should take into account.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Yes.
That's what I was going to refer to, is we've got several processes that we need to maintain out there. And you may recall at the last board meeting, Jerome gave you a full presentation, all the different stuff that we do. We have a risk management plan, we have a business hazardous waste plan for it, and then we have the circle of death, which is what these things are designed to do. And it's not a real popular thing when you have to go through updates to tell people that they might be within a zone of this type of influence. It also helps us greatly reduce the ongoing expense of the hazmat team, because all the equipment that's in the hazmat team, every other year, you've got to replace, no, not every other year, but I can remember years, we've got to replace all the oxygen bottles. It's an ongoing lifetime expense. So besides saving money, it greatly reduces our risk overall.
Do you have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Motion has been made and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. It passes unanimously. And now we'll move on to 2.2. The award of a construction contract for the Mar Reservoir.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Beginning on page 29 of your board packet is the Mar on-site generation project, again approved in the 2014-15 budget. As you know, reclaimed water from our Meadowlark reclamation facility is stored in the Mar Reservoir, and the amount of nutrients that are going into that reservoir combined with the ample sunshine we have in Southern California, it's perfect for producing algae. So our customers don't like it too much when they pull that water back out. When it's nice and green, can tend to clog up their screens. So we've been working pretty diligently the last 2 years on lake management. We've made some great improvements there, but there's more to be had. And we've experimented with different chemicals and different procedures in lake management. And chlorine kind of comes back to being one of the things we really need to add to the lake. And then Liebenheim is actually looking at possibly doing some cost sharing with us and running a line from the on-site generation system down to where they take it, their meter, to inject right directly into their line as well. So it's kind of a win-win for us and our customers. We went out doing the same research at the same time. We put out bids to those same 4 companies for this project as well. 2 non-responsive, the 2 that did respond. Again, James and I went out with them, made sure we had all of our specs being met. The difference here is we're not injecting to improve water quality for drinking, but improve the water quality for the city of Carlsbad and Liebenheim Water District for their reclaimed water projects.
Yes, Director Hernandez.
And the improvement is solely for the algae?
It's to control the algae. I don't think we'll ever completely get rid of it. This, even though this is an expensive project, it's probably one of the least expensive projects that we've looked at. Trestle Engineering also did a research project on it as well.
Did anyone bring up or have a chance to talk about UV light?
Well, there's plenty of UV light out there.
No,
That's actually our enemy in that water.
well,
The UV works good for disinfection. We're not trying to disinfect, we're trying to
No.
kill off an algae bloom, which is phosphates.
I don't believe it was UV. I'm a pond owner, and when I first started the pond, oh my God, it was just green and ugly, and then I believe it, UV light into the system, water circulates, kills the algae.
Key there would be the circulation.
Oh, yeah, well, I'm just.
The water goes in, goes right back out at Mark for the most part.
And that's what happened in my pond, so I didn't know if anybody looked at that. And obviously, it's a big pond, so
We've done a lot of research throughout the country, and
nobody's
there's-
doing that.
nobody's using UV, but there's a lot of different chemicals that we've tried. Some of them do work, but the expense is just
Yeah, no.
too high, and then you
That
also
was the beauty
wind
of
up
this,
with
it was
some
plug it in
toxicity.
and no chemicals or anything, so.
If you
I'll
notice-
look into that.
If you notice the color on the picture, the water's the same color as the surrounding.
Yeah,
brush.
no,
Yeah, it's
I'm
nice,
familiar.
it's nice and green year-round, but we have been working on it. Of the two responsive companies, you see the numbers there, so staff reviewed the quotes, recommends awarding the project again to PSI in the amount of $363,400, subject to provisions of the contract. Happy to
I
answer any other
believe
questions.
Director Tharp has a question.
Yeah, to just circle back with the two non-responsive bidders to see why they didn't bid.
They bid, but they didn't include what we asked them to.
Okay.
They didn't include any installation or any construction costs, and went back to them. One of the companies wanted us to spend about 10 grand on a design with no guarantees we were gonna go with them.
Okay.
So what we did was compare just plain equipment costs, and PSI came in lower anyways. So they're the company we want to use. Other agencies are going with them, including, like I said, the City of Escondido is going through a major multi-million-dollar project at their treatment plant right now. And Levenheim just removed one of the competitors we looked at, their product, and went with this company. Speaking with that plant manager, he said it's a much better product and was less expensive.
Thank you.
And Director Sinella.
Yeah, this is probably more for Dennis, but can we have in the near future perhaps an update, and this might be good, best for Director Elethop and myself. I don't know if the other directors have already been through this, but I would be kind of curious to see a cost-benefit analysis, if you will, of what we're making as far as the recycled water that we're selling to Olivier and others versus what it costs to do to actually recycle it. And I understand that there's some benefits to doing it that are it's the right thing to do, but I would be just kind of curious to see if are we making money on it? Are we losing money on it? Is it significant?
It's actually, the basis is not a per acre charge, per acre foot charge, it's actually a cost of recovery. So we're recovering all of our costs, plus a little bit of administrative costs roll into that too. So it helps cover costs that we would allocate to reclaim through administrative charges. So it's actually the cost benefits done every year when we do budget. We set the rate, and basically we say, you owe us this much money, this is what we budgeted towards reclaimed water, and divide by 12, and that's what we bill a monthly. And then we do a true-up at the end of the year for
So
all
will
of the
this
numbers.
additional cost for this new system be included in that new
Not the
rate?
capital, but the O&M will be.
The
Yeah.
O&M.
There's a capital component that we recover, but that's just on the existing, when we did the upgrade, it's just that capital cost that's recovered, so that's fixed. But the O&M gets recovered 100%.
Did that answer what you wanted, or did
Yeah,
something?
and it makes more sense now, yeah, thank
Yeah,
you. So
it is
maybe we don't need
100%.
a full update.
And just a little background, and again, the way the district has approached it historically when we negotiated the contract was whether we treated at Meadowlark or we treated at Encina, that's a comparable cost, what it costs at either one, and all the existing ratepayers would pay up to secondary, advanced secondary, because that's the minimum that we have to treat to at Encina to meet our NPDS permit. So the direction of the negotiations was, okay, we're even there because they would pay that one way or the other. But when we built the plant, all of the tertiary components, the Title 22, the filters, chlorine contact, the pumps, Mar Reservoir improvements. That was all included in the capital depreciation that we recovered, plus the 100% of the operating costs. So it's a no impact to the district as far as that component of it goes. But that was the approach that the board provided direction to in negotiations.
And Director Martin?
Was that the same way historically that Meadowlark was built?
When, let's go back to the 1980 when it was rebuilt. That's when they reactivated it. That was a 600,000 gallon per day plant. It was actually 2 million, but they were only putting about 600,000 through it. That was local flow. We didn't actually have a contract for any water sales until 1991 with the city of Carlsbad. And at that point, it was up to 75% of the imported water cost. So if imported water was $100, we charged them $75, regardless of what it costs us to make the Title 22 water. When they wanted to expand that, and we expanded Meadowlark in 2005-ish, thank you, we renegotiated with Carlsbad, and then we also entered into it with the Liebenhain to where it was 100% cost recovery, not to ever exceed 75% of imported water cost. We've been running substantially less than that since then.
So in the beginning then, Meadowlark was a lost leader. I'm trying to figure out, if you had no contracts to sell water, you were producing the water, what'd you do with the water?
We dumped it in the ocean, but you got to go further than that.
Well, okay.
You go back before that, the whole area surrounding Meadowlark, the treatment plant, all that land and all the white condos on the hill and all that area was owned by a group called Dan Corporation, the Andon Group and Dan Corporation, not Italian, Canadian firm. They came into the district after the board declared a moratorium, I want to say it was in 76-ish, give or take. Jim was around back then. And so there was no more sewer capacity. Encina was maxed out. We couldn't reach agreement on expanding Encina from advanced primary to secondary. So we had to make a deal on how to do it. So the Dan Corporation came in. They funded an equivalent of 500, I think it was 500, might have been 2,000, equivalent dwelling units. That would have been their development. So they provided the upfront capital to build it in exchange for 2,000 or however many EDUs it was, so that they had somewhere to actually sewer to. If we hadn't expanded Meadowlark, there was actually a moratorium in effect. And by building Meadowlark, that actually allowed the district to lift the moratorium to allow growth to move forward. So they built a plant. We had an agreement with Daon. They were supposed to use 500,000 gallons a day of reclaimed water within their area. Well, late 70s, early 80s, first big recession hit. None of that land developed. When they did start to develop, what they found out, which I'm sure they already knew, was a giant rock. And you can't use a lot of reclaimed water on giant rocks because it doesn't absorb and it runs straight into San Marcos Creek. So that agreement got voided. They got their credit for the amount of houses they did, but there was no demand. As part of it, they built that pipe that James spoken about that during the final design to realign a couple pieces. One of them was a solids line. That's one that's broken several times. And then the other is the fail-safe line. The fail-safe line is exactly what it says. If Mar Reservoir's full, we still have to treat sewage. We can't just turn the valve off or send it somewhere else because it's in that basin. The fail-safe is then used, you treat it to the minimum requirements that you need, which is advanced secondary, and we dump it in the ocean, outfall through Encina. So right now, if we don't have a market, Mar's full, it's raining, we don't have anywhere to put the water, what we do is we have a pump station. You may remember at the top of the secondaries, there's a separate pump station up there. We don't treat it to Title 22, we just treat it to advanced secondary, send it to the coast and get rid of it, dump it in the ocean. So it's a whole history of all the different steps how we got to it.
Yeah.
But the reason it got reactivated in the late 70s was because of development, there was a moratorium. I don't know if that answered the question or not.
So right now, we're receiving all of our O&M plus a small amount of administration.
We get part of the administration, we get part of the power for it, we get part of the overhead costs on equipment, trucks, insurance, premiums, that kind of thing. Anything associated with admin services.
And
So
related to
it's a wash to our customers?
Yeah. Yeah, it's not costing our customers anything. It's 100% recovery.
Thank you.
I want to thank the board members for some really good questions, and I want to thank staff and our general manager for, that was a great history lesson right there.
I could go into more about the dam corporation if you like, but that's probably another different
enough,
story.
but I want to, those were good questions, and I appreciate the update and that the knowledge is there if we need to pry it out. So at this point, we need a motion to approve. Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you. The motion's been moved and seconded to for the award of a construction contract with Mar Reservoir on-site generation of sodium hypochlorite. Those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you also.
Thank you, Ed.
2-3, item
Change?
2-3. This is the award of lift station number 1 pump improvements and adoption of a resolution for labor compliance program. And if I have this right, we will be making a motion for the resolution to do the labor compliance program, and we'll also need a motion to award the contract, right? For the
Correct.
lift station. I got that right? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, President Evans, members of the board. To continue with the recycled water theme, Lift Station 1 is the pump station that actually takes sewer from Lift Station 1, which is located on San Marcos Boulevard, and pumps it to Metal Arcs. This way we have additional sewer to produce recycled water. As part of the project, the pump station currently produces at capacity about 2,000 gallons a minute. And with the new pump that's being proposed to be put in, it'll be up to about 3,100 gallons a minute. That's the capacity of the pump station. With that, that'll allow us to produce additional recycled water, which can be used to sell to both Livenheim and Carlsbad through our contract. Back on February 12th, the district staff opened several bids from contractors, and you can see the list in your staff report, which, apologize, starts on page 32. And A2M Engineering came in as the lowest responsive and responsible bidder. Infrastructure Engineering Corporation did the design, and the district staff is going to do the construction management and inspection. Also, another part of this project, and many of the board may recall, is the Prop 84 funding that the district received through the North County Recycled Water Coalition. This is the project that's been earmarked for the round 2 of the Prop 84, which is approximately $338,000. So part of the project will be offset by that $338,000 funding from Prop 84. However, with many grant fundings from the state especially, comes with some strings. One of the strings is a adoption of a labor compliance program. Currently, the district does normal labor compliance, but not to the state's level, and required an outside consultant, which is Golden State Labor Compliance. Golden State Labor Compliance is not only the outside consultant that's being proposed to do our labor compliance program for this project and potentially any other future state funding project, but they're also the labor compliance consultant for the County Water Authority for the Prop 84 funding that does it for the County Water Authority. So district staff received a proposal from them for about $5,620. So with that, basically, if you could look at the fiscal impact with the budgets, we're just barely under budget at this time. So we're doing okay. And unless there's any questions, staff recommends adoption of the resolution for the labor compliance program and award of construction to A2M Engineering construction in the amount of $443,398.
Thank you, James. Director Sinella?
Yeah, didn't see it in here, but these new labor strings that you had mentioned, there wasn't any detail in our packet about that. Is there anything that's significant that is going to significantly impact either our employees or cost of the district by becoming compliant with these strings?
No, so with this, there's new labor compliance codes that came out for all government agencies that we've been working with council on, and we've adopted in our documentation. And it's a few extra steps as far as staff time, and the majority of the compliance requirements still bears on the contractor. And our specifications and language in our documents have been updated to accommodate that. So all the new jobs have that information in there already. However, for state funding, it requires another level of labor compliance, because not only is it required within the state funding mechanism, but it's required that the contractors submit that information. So the specifications, the rules and regulations in which the contractor has to bid on, that's been updated with the new labor compliance code for the state. It probably does add some cost. How much, we don't know, because With anything else, once you add more restrictions, more paperwork, you're gonna pay for it one way or another. But it's a string for 300.
So the labor compliance is more in regards to the contracted staff, not our own employees?
The contract.
Yeah, okay. And then the other question I have is there anything wrong with the current 2,000 gallon per minute pump?
No, the pump station currently has a capacity of 2,000 gallons per minute. It actually has two 700 gallon per minute pumps and a 2,000 gallon per minute pump. So when it's lower flows, we don't need as much makeup sewer to go to Meadowlark, or higher flows local, we don't need a lot of sewer, then we run the smaller pumps. When we need more flows from the sewer that passes the lift station, we run the big pump, which is 2,000 gallons per minute. The larger pump will now allow us to actually increase the capacity or amount of product that we produce at Meadowlark from around 3.75 to over 4 million gallons a day, or probably about 4.25 is the estimate. So that's more sales of recycled water and also more compliance with our contracts.
And so do we have demand for that extra?
Oh, yeah.
And is
For
there,
recycled water, yes.
and getting back to our prior conversation regarding return on investment, have you determined how long it'll take at selling the additional recycled water to cover the cost of the project?
It's the same thing, that the lift station one is 100% recovered, the O&M costs of lift
I
station one.
understand the O&M, but there's
100% cost.
capital costs are capital.
Capital, yeah,
Right? I mean,
right.
it's still
It's just-
money.
That's just an added cost, the capital cost is.
No, I know
We're
it's
getting a
added cost,
capital
but I mean,
component.
between the two projects, for now, we're $1 million in capital
Mhm.
costs that we just said that, well, there's no cost to our customers. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but are we getting money from anybody else other than our customers, other than this little grant? But
We have an obligation right now to produce 4.5 million gallons of water, and we have an obligation to give that to Allevenhagen. We can't meet our current obligation because of pump deficiencies. When the contracts were signed and planned, it was during a growth period, and the amount of flow that comes in from the San Leo Basin would have made up the differential to where we wouldn't have had to do some of these improvements, but it didn't happen. We do have an obligation to sell Allevenhagen 1.5 million gallons a day during summer. Right now, we can only get them about 750 to 1 million. So this is partly contractual obligation.
There is a capital component in what they already pay, and it's for, replacement and other capital components,
So getting back to my original question, if we're selling more of this recycled water, because we're gonna put these new pumps in that have more capacity, we're gonna generate additional revenue. How long will it take for that additional revenue, above and beyond what the revenue is today, to offset the $600,000 in capital costs? Because it will eventually, I would imagine, there will be a return of investment to our ratepayers at some point. That might be a year, it might be 5 years, it may be never, depending on how small that amount is. But
We haven't done a cost analysis.
Yeah.
One of the things is, as it was mentioned before, the cost of the recycled water fluctuates, so it's not a straight line cost, or it costs based on actual recovery. So there's probably an estimation we can do, but it'd be hard to do exact estimation.
Yeah, it'd be a lot of
Well,
assumptions,
maybe we
but
could take
we could do that.
a 12-month rolling average of what we're selling it for, and I'm just curious, because these are big numbers, and it would be nice to be able, if we're ever asked, to say, yeah, well, this is actually a really good thing, because not only do we get to take advantage of this grant, but we also will see a return on investment, and in the long run, we'll actually make additional revenue from having the larger capacity.
Okay, did you have a question for Hernandez?
Oh, yes, the cost to hire the consultant to do the oversight, if I heard it, I didn't hear it.
Yes, it's in the table that's on page 33, actually. So the consultant was about 123,000. Oh, sorry, the oversight was about 5,000 on page 32 in the last paragraph. $5,620.
Oh, okay.
Any further questions? Yes, Director
I
Martin.
have a few,
All right.
and I'm trying not to beat a dead horse, but I'm just trying to understand Director Sinello's question. I know we're contractually obligated, and we sign that contract who knows when by who knows when, but when we sign a contract, do we look forward to what capitalization, what cap cost is going to be in order for us to produce that? No, what I'm saying is this cost of $500,000, isn't being borne by the people that we're selling it to. Is that correct?
Well, there's a fixed component, there's a fixed capital component that they pay no matter what. It doesn't fluctuate with O&M.
Does that component pay for these capital costs?
Yes, of course, it's gonna take a while.
Take a while,
because
that's what
it's
Director Snell is
half a
asking.
And a
million.
while is?
That's what we're gonna look
We'll
at
have to
and
look at.
see how long.
10 years, 100 years?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly right. We'll have to-
Yeah. whatever
But
they
before
do.
we sign contracts, I assume we look at that and we add that in there.
Well, again-
Knowing that needs are gonna be,
But again, going back in time, when we did sign the contracts, there were other assumptions made. Greater flows would become in other areas. It's a lot of moving parts. There would be, in all reality, if the pump set's there right now, grenaded and blew up overnight, we'd spend $400,000 to replace it. We would not recover that capital. We only get a small piece of that capital recovery. It's the cost of doing business to provide the water. When we built the plant and we did the initial contract, we had all the capital from the treatment plant, all the capital in MAR, and we had all of that capital rolled into it. This is something that's come up because times changed. We signed the contract in 1991. Things have changed substantially since then, so we just have to modify.
and we don't have as much flow as we assumed we'd have in 1991.
Right.
So our flow's already diminishing.
Well, they're not diminishing, we just didn't have the growth that provided the additional flow in the Meadowlark Basin. Because remember, we pump, and just to really put this in perspective here, at some point in the future, when growth picks up again, the capacity of this pump station will no longer be needed. So a lot of this pump station that we're building now for today's criteria, when the whole Meadowlark Basin builds out, it will generate up to 3 million gallons per day of sewage. Then we're only gonna pump 1.5 to 2 million down there, and the existing pump station can handle it.
Right.
But that might be in 5 years, might be in 23 years,
Who knows?
but who knows? So there's a lot of this is some unknown stuff that we just deal with on the fly.
Okay, couple of questions, James. On the map, Pacific and San Marcos Boulevard, the northeast property, do we own that? Water District own that?
The property that's on the Water District owns the property that's on the pump station site.
Okay, now let's go to the northeast corner up there.
that's,
Right. Right. Okay, what about if we go to the corner
No,
of Pacific Street?
no.
No. So the pump station is the only thing we have. We have an easement on the other property.
Yeah, that northeast corner is the habitat conservation area that the city has put into that, those depressions, what are they
The
called?
vernal pools.
Vernal pools,
Right,
thank you.
but we have an easement, obviously.
Yeah, right through the middle of it.
Okay. And then the last question is, in making this great improvement to the pump station, are we going to be capturing any of those fugitive odors that are constantly in that area? Does it help in any way? Or is there still brushes we need, and we'll do that 10, 20 years from now when people cough and choke on the way through there?
yeah, actually, this project is not going to help with the capturing of the fugitive odors, but there is another project that the operations is doing that will help address that.
Oh, thank you, because I did notice them very strongly. And I'm going to have another question.
Yeah,
But
actually.
You said it was the last.
I like it.
In the 2014-15 budget, we included money for closing up the wet well. If you remember from the tours, there was this chain link fence that was keeping you from going in there and taking a swim.
Right.
Biggest problem we're having right now is getting a manufacturer to custom make those doors because there's a rail that goes through there for our hoist system. We have to keep that in place, so we're gonna be closing that up. We're also gonna be closing up the actual hatch area, creating some hatches there, and then we're also gonna be putting in an odor scrubber. So you'll never get rid of 100% of the odors, but it should probably drop them by 90-95% in the next few months. We're getting our last bids together right now and hope to have this completed by July 1st.
And then, well, you're both of you can answer this. I happened to, the other day, was at Green Gables. It's on the old Richland Schoolhouse. And I drove around the golf cart. And right there where the creek is at the first at its opening, I smelt the absolute rawest sewage. It was worse than your salad house at Meadowlark. And I'm like, what is this?
Where was this?
Behind Richland Schoolhouse, next to the railroad tracks.
So Woodland and 78, Rancheros, Woodland 78 right there in Mission.
Yes.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
what we're talking about.
right behind, right adjacent to the property.
The Richmond siphon is in the.
Oh, no, it's, you might have been picking up Diamond Industries.
Yeah.
They
Well,
clean
They're a
out,
far ways away, but
well, it
unless
depends
they're,
on which way
unless they're pushing it uphill.
there's actually two two, or actually, I think I know which one you're picking up,
It
because when my
was-
son played football for Mission Hills High School,
Oh,
there's a compost.
Compost pile?
There's a compost pile, and when they
Yeah.
stir that, no, you'd swear it was raw sewage, and everybody in the stands would be ill from that smell. And we tracked it down because we were wondering if it was coming from our sewer, and we thought Diamond Industries, and it was not Diamond, it was not our sewer. It was actually that compost pile the person has, and when they spin it, when they turn it, it is horrendous. And
No.
it goes for probably at least a mile. Yeah, it's on the other side of the.
Where's the pile located?
It's on the other side, on the southern side of Mission Road.
Right,
The pile-
in the contractor's yard, if you will?
Yeah, in that area, yeah.
behind Kylie's.
Dozy, I think it's,
Behind Kylie's,
I think it's Dozy
behind
Landscape.
Kylie's.
right behind
Oh, I
Kylie's.
know the area, I was thinking it was further east.
Yeah, when the school opened, we got phone calls from the school probably monthly for about a year to come investigate why the sewer smell was.
Mhm.
It wasn't us, it was across the street.
Is that Dozy Land, Dozy or?
Dozy.
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 Yeah, that's close
I
to
believe that's
Dozy.
theirs,
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
But it was, if I had the time and I didn't, I'm gonna go back, because I just couldn't believe it. Something tells me the creek had to be full of
It's horrible.
something.
It is a
And I've
horrible
heard
state.
before that it was the manure from the pigs when they do the blending of the compost, and I heard it's the milk thing, and I heard it was diamond, and I don't know which one's
No,
true.
we determined it was the compost pile.
Okay, because it was rank. Oof. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Is there, Director Sinell?
Just curious, the 2,000 gallon per minute pump that's there now, can that be repurposed or sold, or what's the plan
No,
for
they're
that?
both.
I don't know about pumps.
Okay, so there's gonna be 4 pumps in the pump station. A 700 gallon per minute pump that's getting refurbished, an old 700 gallon per minute pump. The 2,000 gallon per minute pump is actually not that old, and a new 2,000 gallon per minute pump. But when you turn on the pump station, when you turn on 2,000 gallon per minute pumps, you don't get 4,000, unfortunately, because of losses. So
Okay.
the new pump station capacity is going to be 3,100 gallons per minute by adding another 2,000. So we're gonna run 2 pumps at once to get that 3,000 gallon per minute.
Wow.
So that pump is in service, it's actually not that old, and it's gonna continue to operate.
And then, Dennis, you kind of lost me on the whole part about not needing this capacity, this extra capacity in the future because of some build out towards Meadowlark. What, can you elaborate on that a little bit? I don't know what you're
Ultimately,
talking about.
you have 2 sewer basins for the water district. You have what we call the San Marcos Basin, then you have what we call the Meadowlark Basin. Included in the San Marcos Basin is Lake San Marcos. No, excuse me, in the Meadowlark Basin is Lake San Marcos, because it's a bowl and we pump, it pumps Meadowlark. The build-out flow of those 2 areas is between 3 and 3.25 million gallons per day. Right now, we're only bringing in 8 or 1, maybe a million gallons a day. So as a million picks up down there, we pump a million less. A million less means it could be any combination of reduced flows up here. So as 2 million is picked up down there, that's 2 million we don't need to pump from up here. So you size pumps based upon what you have right now.
Is there construction projects that are?
Oh, it might be 15 years. Whenever the Meadowlark Basin starts to build again, keep in mind, there's a tremendous amount of open land still out in that area out there that'll build. So the more flow that comes in locally into Meadowlark by gravity, we don't pump. So if an extra million gallons down there, that would be a million less we would pump. That might be 20 years. We might rebuild this pump 6 times by the time we ever don't need it.
Is the open, I'm just trying to visualize this, is the open land that you think that may or may not ever be built, is that the land that, you remember when we took the tour, we went back up there behind Lake San Marcos to the tank up there,
Mhm.
where it was really windy? That land, as we were kind of looking out south towards San Leo Hills, there was a lot of open space there on that hillside.
That's a very minor amount. That's very little.
What are
If
you
you
talking
actually go east of San Leo, once you go east of San Leo, there's multiple thousands of acres
So
left.
where the dump was?
Down to the
in that
old,
area?
oh, down past the dump, down to the old chicken ranch, whatever that old one used to be called, but, yeah,
Okay.
it's all the way down there. Plus, you gotta remember, all the Coronado Hills, the backside of Coronado Hills Mountain, all of that drains backwards. And what's strange is our master plan picks up 2 drainage basins to the east. So as you're going uphill, what used to be kind of the old high hill, and then you went down where the fires were, a lot of that area will ultimately be coming to us for sewer service.
Didn't know that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a big area.
Thank you. And Director Hernandez?
And so, once this development takes place, however long it expect, will that give us additional capacity at Pump Station 1 to send to Encina?
Well, you gotta remember, number one lift station, if we didn't have to pump sewage down to Meadowlark, we would turn number one pump station off.
Oh, because that's all gravity?
Because it's gravity,
Ah.
gravity through a siphon,
Yeah.
but it's still gravity flow.
Okay.
But the other things that you've got to keep in mind is with all the other things we're looking at right now for the board on reclamation, doing this, doing that, what may end up being a pump station right now might be scalping and go to a smaller plant right there. It could be a variety of things that could happen. The other thing we're also looking at, keep in mind, is we've done the preliminary study at Meadowlark, and we can peak it up to 8 MGD. So right now, so if we need to, down the road, either more flow, less flow, we decide to do more reclamation, we pull the flow back from Carlsbad into Liebenhain, there's a million options.
Okay.
Yeah, but we know that we can peak the treatment plant at up to 8 MGD. But the problem is, you've got to get the flow there.
Yeah.
And the other thing that James and Ed have to do is the programmers in the pump station, we can't use those big pumps all night. We have to then go down to those smaller pumps. And then the bigger pumps have VFDs, they call variable frequency drives. They ramp them up and down to meet our demand. Because if we turn them on at full capacity at night, we'll dry up the outfall. If we dry up the line outfall and then use it in the morning, what it ends up being is just a great big can of that comes out, and it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
So that's why we always have to keep flowing the outfall.
Any more questions? Well, again, those are great questions, and I think it points out, and great answers, I think it points out what a trick it is to be taking care of the complexities and the variabilities that are going on in this business. So those of you who are watching this on TV, I hope you understood that. Great explanation. Okay, we need a motion to adopt the resolution for the labor compliance program in order that we are eligible for the grant funding.
Move to approve.
Okay, and a second?
Second.
Thank you. This would be a roll call vote. Thank you.
This will be resolution 1465. Director Olathar?
Yes.
Director Hernandez?
Yes.
Director Martin?
Yes.
Director Snella?
Yes.
Director Adams?
Yes. And then we need a motion and a second for the award of the lift station number 1 pump improvement.
Move to approve.
Second? I'll second that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, item 2.4, the San Diego North Economic Development Council Summit. At this one, I believe we're going to be asked if we would like to sponsor a table at the SDNEDC Summit, Economic Summit on March 10th. It's, understand it's 115?
I believe we did confirm that after this was brought up last board meeting by Dr. Snella. I just clipped out their flyer right off the website instead of trying to copy it also. There's what it is.
Okay.
And if I can start?
Yes, please.
We kind of ran out a little bit of time on this to really take advantage of everything that we could have by doing the sponsorship. They were prepared to allow us to have both a table and a booth for that, and I think that would have been a great opportunity to get out there and kind of continue with our outreach. But given that we're 7 days away, I don't even know if we bought a table, if we'd be able to fill it. So although I had asked for this to be brought up, and I'd certainly welcome to hear what the other directors' thoughts are on this. We have, if you remember, approved $5,000 worth of expenditures over the course of the year on various different activities with this group at our discretion. This $1,500 would have come out of those approved funds, but given the late notice, unless the board thinks we can really fill the table up, and if staff believes that we can put together a PR team to go out there and work a table in 7 days, I wouldn't advise that we take the $1,500 and do it now, but we spend it elsewhere down the road. Having said that, I have had at least one board member reach out to me and ask about how they can attend the event, and I noticed that, and thank you, Diane, she did put it on our sheet here. So if you do want to attend, I would recommend that you reach out to Diane as soon as possible so she can make our reservations for us, because I believe an individual ticket's $65. So, but anyways, I'm not, again, if there's 3 or more of us that think we should get a table, then, I mean, I'm all ears, but that's just kind of my concerns right now.
I just have a quick question. I'm having a little trouble with my pad here. So what was the time on that?
It's from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m.
7
So it's 4
a.m.
hours on March 10th.
To 11 a.m. Okay. Are there any questions or comments? Director Martin and then Director Hernandez.
No, I'm good.
Oh, Director Martin.
Director Sinel, perhaps, because we did agree on spending the $5,000, perhaps if you've got the date yet, and I know you just got there, what are the other things coming up that we have the opportunity to spend that on, if not doing the summit? And I've attended 2 of their summits, and I found them quite worthwhile. Usually have, well, last one I went to, we had the leaders of industry in North County, and I think we had the 5 leaders of the university, Palomar College.
I remember hearing about that, I don't remember who all attended.
Yeah, but anyhow, are there other opportunities coming up?
And I've only been
I know.
involved with them for a month now, and so I'm certainly no expert about the group yet. But to my knowledge, there's only one other large function that they'll have towards the end of the year. I believe it's in December, where there'll be an opportunity to purchase a table. But if I recall from our February 4th meeting, when we did approve this, I kind of got the consensus in listening to board comments that what we were going to try to shoot for was some sort of water symposium. And I have heard from the staff of the EDC that they have already reached out to other water agencies to perhaps partner with us, and that way we would reduce our costs and be able to host a very comprehensive, robust water symposium here in North County sometime this year, which I would imagine would have enough money to do both. Participate in that symposium and then also purchase a table in December at their next event, which is their annual end of the year luncheons. I believe you attended last December there in Escondido. So I'm not aware of any other major events that they have through the course of the year.
I guess my question is, so if it's $1,500 and $1,500 for the next dinner, then we still have $2,000 to put together a symposium. As you know, I'm definitely a doubting Thomas, and I want to see what they can do. But if I don't attend the functions, I don't know what they're doing. I thought you getting that article, by the way, staff did a great job with that article.
Good, thank you.
Getting that article out was a very nice thing to do, and I understand they're going to do 2 more pieces of that.
Should be one tomorrow.
We got 2 more editions coming up.
2 more editions coming out, so my thought is that, if we're gonna be fair with this, looking at it for the first year, we should attend their 2 major functions, and so we see for ourselves personally. Either way, I'd like to go, whether we sponsor a table or we don't, I'd like to go, because I wanna make sure that we hold their feet to the fire and show us what they can do.
And to respond to that, if you don't mind, I'm all for that, so long as we think we can fill the table in such short notice. Because I plan on attending. I would love to have somebody from our senior staff there.
I'm trying.
Director Hernandez?
And I love the organization, and I do plan to attend the event. I am concerned, as Director Sinella is, that, with a short period of time, I mean, we had many more weeks to fill the state of the city, and it fell short, and I would rather put the additional, because a few of us are going to attend, we'll see what's going on, I'd rather put these additional dollars into that symposium, if you will, and then the last 15 or whatever portion, 15, at the end of your event. Particularly if we're going to be joining, if other agencies are going to join us, then make it really robust, using your words.
Yes, Director
Yeah,
Martin.
and my question would be, I just want to be sure we don't get to the end of the year and we haven't spent what we said we were going to do to fulfill our part. And I don't know how much a symposium can be. The symposium is a symposium. Spending more than $2,000 there, what are we spending it on, is my question, I guess. But either way, I'm fine, but I want to make sure that we fulfill our side. We agreed to it, and I want to give them a chance, but I want to go see them say walk the walk. They've talked the talk, but I really want to see them walk the walk. And if I don't go and don't participate, I don't know if you did it.
I would agree with all three of you. I think the short notice, just because of timing, Mike, it is what it was, is what it is. I would agree the water symposium, if we do it, whether it's just North County agencies or county-wide. I think if you read, I passed out a thing, and I'll talk about that afterwards. I think come July, June, July-ish, we're gonna be front and center of every newspaper there is, period. So I think the symposium of bringing people together would probably be a really good way to spend the money. Might be a little more than you're thinking, Director Martin, I'm not sure, because I haven't, when we've done things, it tends to,
It adds up quick.
just this thing that we've done here was twice that amount. So.
Really?
Yeah, it adds up really fast. I think there would be a lot of support for that kind of thing because of getting the word out, and we might be able to get the Water Authority met, a whole bunch of people to come speak and do it. Maybe we do the thing you're talking about now, because it's now an approved organization, so we'll pay the cost to go, and it's per diem eligible as well. And then we try to figure out the symposium and find out what you have left. But you got a year.
Yeah. No, I would agree, and just the lastly, the big, Director Martin, the big bang for your buck for doing the economic summit would be to have the booth there at the event and having our PR folks there engaging the audience, and I don't think it's fair to staff in 7 days for them to put something like that together. So that's, without having that, I would encourage, hopefully all 5 of us can go, perhaps a member of staff can go, and even if we have 10 people, at $65, it's still only $650.
Right.
And it still goes towards crediting our account, if you will. But I think I don't think there's gonna be a lot of different agencies that are involved. I think that they're reaching out to Olivia Hain, maybe the Water Authority, maybe a couple, maybe, I think it's gonna be primarily North County, but I suspect, I mean, with what's coming with the drought and other things, that we're gonna probably have 200 or 300, maybe 400 people at the symposium, and it's gonna cost some money.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna take each agency to pony up, $2,500 or so, I would imagine, at least.
And if I may, several things have come to mind. First, on the economic summit, I understand it's unfortunate the timing was so short to get the table. But it might be worthwhile, keep in mind that we could have also done the booth, and wasn't the booth like $500?
Yes.
So maybe the next round, if we continue with this organization, we'll keep that in mind. So if we're hesitant on a table, we don't lose out on the booth, and we could give staff time to be prepared. On the State of the City address, although that we didn't fill the table, it was filled when I was there. And so I don't know how the economic summit works, but there may be people who would have walked in and been able to sit at our table. But I think the wiser idea is to pay for those who can go. I would like to say I can, it depends on if I'm back in town on Monday night. But I think that would be a great way to do it now, and I'm very excited about the symposium idea, and think if we're gonna spend extra money, that's a good place to spend it. That's sort of my comments. Did you have any at all, Director Ellicott?
Nothing original, I agree with all the comments.
Okay, great.
I would say basically,
Pardon? There's
I
nothing-
would say basically, Mike, you're a delegate, so you make the call when you think it's best used.
Yeah, that's what I said in the beginning. I just think that, given the short notice, I would have loved to have been able to have the table and have a booth and everything, but this all, it's nobody's fault, this all came together kind of late.
Short timing.
And, it is what it is, but I still think that, we'll have the opportunity. I don't think it's gonna be very difficult to spend the $5,000.
So, for
So
benefit
that's-
of this, would you like to make a motion regarding this actual event?
I don't even know if we
No,
need a
we don't
motion
need
at
one.
this point.
We don't need a motion?
No, if there's
Oh,
no-
great.
Just let Diane know if you're gonna go.
If you're gonna go.
It's easy
And
enough.
as you said, the cost will be covered and it's expenses and also per diem. And that's from 7 to 11 on Tuesday, March 10th.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks.
you. That was a good discussion. 2.5, we're going to, we need to call for a public hearing on ordinance number 190 for the per diem review. And if you'll look at your notes, we do have a correction. The date of the public hearing would actually be moved up to March 18th. Is that correct?
Next board meeting.
Next board meeting.
Just in trying to get the timing out, they thought they couldn't get the notices out in time, but as it turned out, staff is able to do it. So rather than April 1st, the public hearing would be at the meeting on, our next board meeting on the 18th of March. Yes, Director Hernandez.
I just want some clarification. At the public hearing, will the full discussion relative to the increase of the per diem, but also the annual review for the cost of living, will that also be part of the discussion? How does that physically work?
You have two components, you've really got three components to the whole
Okay.
thing, maybe four. First off, from tonight, when you set the hearing, we have to notice twice in the newspaper, and we no sooner than 14 days. So if we would have done this Wednesday, and we were right on the ragged edge of getting it out in time for the 18th, so this gave us an extra day. Once we have the hearing, you can have two components to that night. The first one is a hearing, which is purely $150 to $200. That's it. That's all the hearing is. It's very short and sweet. Would anybody like to speak to this? Board members get a chance, public gets a chance. Boom, nothing happens, hearing's closed. Okay, now the next item of business will be the actual ordinance. So the ordinance will come before you, and it will include the verbiage in it, which is increasing from 150 to 200. We had that one minor fix that Chair had brought up a while back under the benefits. The board said, go ahead and fix it, but I said, let me wait till I do the whole ordinance instead of bringing it back twice. And then it also includes in there is that the board can consider an annual up to 5% cost of living allowance noticed in the same way you're doing this. So it's two steps.
Perfect.
Once you adopt it, assuming the board adopts it on the 18th, there's then a 60-day waiting period before the actual increase from $150 to $200 can take place. But you don't have to do any additional notification after that.
Okay.
Then on an annual basis, we could bring it back most likely in March, because the cost of living information usually comes out in March. And then, so this would be something coming back to you on an annual basis, first or second meeting in March.
Thank you very, very much.
Any other questions?
So the only motion I need is
A motion to call for a public hearing on
March
3/8
18th.
to March 18th.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second? Second. Those in favor say aye.
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 Those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, and we're on to reports.
A couple of items. The MAM, down at the Water Authority, we met yesterday. We met today. I can't tell you how many meetings we've had over the last 3 years trying to resolve quite a few issues, but I reported the last one that we've made resolution finally on the fixed components of the desal plan IID. Today, we finally reached resolution on rate stabilization funds and the temporary or transitional ag water rate program for the Water Authority. I can't say we had 100% with everybody in the room, but we didn't get them all. We only missed one. So it was pretty good. So Director Evans will get all that information back at the next board meeting. Again, that was about a 3-year process for that task force. The Water Authority did approve the desalination contract for Vallecitos and Carlsbad at the last board meeting with the Water Authority. Assuming we get the final verbiage resolved, they approved it under substantial conformance with what the board had. I had asked one additional provision to be put in there, that if we can go back once the lawsuit is settled, if I can go back on behalf with the Water Authority and request the rebate from MET for the local project development, then we would get that credit back, which is $250 an acre foot. So it's pretty good reduction in cost. We couldn't do it right now because once the lawsuit was filed, they said no more rebates, no incentives. So I asked them to put that provision in there. So if we can go back and get it, then we get the benefit of it as the district.
A little slower explanation of that for us.
Okay, way back when the North County 9, when we pushed the whole desal project forward and got the approval, part of the whole concept was a local program. Local supply development program that was sponsored by Metropolitan. It would allow up to $250 acre foot incentive towards the cost of water. So if it was $2,000, it would give $250 off, so it would bring that cost down to $1,750, or whatever the case may be. So we'd actually made the application on behalf of all 9 of us with MET, and they had accepted it.
Oh,
But then things happened, That then put it out of our range of being able to pay for it as the local 9. That's when we went to the Water Authority. The Water Authority took it over.
The lawsuit?
The lawsuit, the Water Authority took it over. The lawsuit's still going forward right now. Once the lawsuit was filed, Metropolitan had verbiage in their program that said if anybody sues us over anything we do, we have the right to then rescind and stop any and all funding for any local development. Well, the second the suit was filed, boom, there went our local 250. So that is all continuing to move forward. And the provisions that we predominantly wanted in the contract was, one, if the Water Authority is to buy the project out at the 10-year period, we as Vallecitos have the right to request more desal water because we theoretically are an owner in that project. The other provision we got in it was that if the other partners who were buying water directly couldn't take it or could no longer use it, we had the first right of refusal to claim it before it went to the rest of the county. So we got those two provisions in. And then while we were sitting down there actually in the meeting, I was talking to Director Evans, it clicked. What happens if we can go back and get the 250 now that the lawsuit's settled? When the lawsuit gets settled, if it gets settled. So they said, well, yeah, because what the contract says is you pay whatever cost is. So if there's a rebate, you get the rebate. Okay, we agree because we've been working on this with each other for 10 years, but in 10 years, will that be clear in somebody's mind? So I asked them to put that provision in the contract, and they said they would. So assuming we get a final version, Tom caught a few minor little issues that he had questions on this week, so I'm hoping to bring you guys the desal contract back on the 18th.
Very good, very good.
That would be the end of about a 12-year process.
Okay.
The other thing that's kind of good, Tom has been following and watching the economy pretty well. And back in 2005, we issued the COPs, the Certificates of Participation, for the treatment plant expansion in Twin Oaks, 70-something million, whatever the case may be. In 2007, we locked it into a fixed rate because the variables were starting to go up quite a bit, so we locked it in. He's been checking on it, and right now, because just the market and some things that are looking very good, he's going to continue to look in this, and the options are anywhere saving us between 4.7 and 8 million, give or take, in our long-term debt, present value. So hopefully he will get through this in the next week or so, and we'll probably have the financial consultant come to the board on the 18th, give you kind of what could be. We have options of doing it now, waiting till they're callable in 2017. There's different alternatives between 2015 and 2017. But it looks like it would be something that would be a definite net savings to multiple $1 million to the district to refund and reissue. So we'll be bringing that back to you hopefully on the 18th. I did pass out a DWR press release. I think we passed it out. You guys should have it. Have a glass of wine with it when you read it because it's very depressing. The snowpack is, I mean, what they do have is extremely dry. It's the blue top one is just extremely dry. The moisture percentage is just almost non-existent. This just came out today. They'll have one more check, I believe, at the end of the month. There's a few storms coming, but they're just not seeing much. It's not looking good.
Yes.
Having not read it, because I didn't want to upset my lunch, does it look or smell like we're moving to 3?
Oh, yeah.
And this past week, I actually had a developer call me, you're putting a moratorium on? I went, whoa, whoa, whoa. Stop the music, let me explain as best I could that no. However, if the state mandates level 3 and you're not permitted, hooked up with payments made, you ain't getting it.
That's correct.
And that's a correct statement.
Right on the button.
All right.
Bottom line, if you look at the second paragraph on the first page, as you look at the water, you go to about the 4th line down, the Northern Sierra snowpack, 16% of average for this time. Then you look at the other Central and Southern Sierra, 20% and 22% of average. The rest of the report just gets into some of the history and everything else. I didn't bring the other presentation we just got yesterday at the Water Authority. I'll let Director Evans bring that good news back when she has her next board meeting.
Yeah, a little bit of it.
But the bottom line is it's way off.
And is there a response from the state relative to the economic impact of this move?
Well, I don't, obviously it's gonna be big, and it's not the state, by the way, that would declare stage 3. It would be Metropolitan that would do allocations.
Oh, so it's metropolitan,
Yeah,
not metropolitan and
But the
state.
state could. The Department of Drinking Water, they're the ones who put into effect that last limitation and said you shall.
Yeah,
Okay, they can actually enforce this as well. They wouldn't do what they call stage 3. What they would say is, okay, everybody got to cut back 40%. Our policy, when it gets past 20, goes to stage 3, same as the Water Authority,
Okay.
which is based on MET.
I see.
So there's a couple of ways this could come together.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, the MET and the Water Authority, well, Metropolitan was saying they didn't anticipate a curtailment of more than 10 to 20%. That was assuming they were going to get a 40 to 50% allocation on the state water project. DWR already said that the Central Valley people are getting nothing this year. So unless March is one of these just incredible rainfalls, but the problem is we don't need the rain, we need the snowpack.
Yeah.
Because the snowpack is the reservoir. Right now, if it just rains real hard, they can't turn the pumps on except for a certain time period. It just goes straight out to the ocean. So we really don't know. But March has got to be a pretty cold,
Yeah.
wet March to get it done. But Director Evans will be getting more of this at the next board meeting. We have an A&F committee on the 12th, special meeting down there. I think we'll be getting an update on that as well. You probably, Director Evans and Director Martin, probably got a copy of the Aqua JPIA letter, where there is a reduction of 10% in the real property premiums. But keep in mind, that's the deposit. You still have an end-of-year reconciliation. So it's just how much we have to deposit this year. Instead of $53,500, it's $49,500. So it's about $5,000 less. You also have in front of you a flyer. I think I lost it, Home Depot. So we're hosting that with the Water Authority and everybody else on April 18th here at the Home Depot, where they give you a discount on a lot of the plants, a lot of different things. So I know that'll be on the web page as well.
What, curiosity, in the past, what does that cost us?
Pardon?
I think we have some staff time in there, and they believe that Home Depot just actually discounts a specific set of plants for anybody that comes in and buys them. Yeah, so we don't have to pay for the plants, we just pay for staff time to go, which is usually just one person.
$250 now.
That's all the notes I had on mine. Good news to follow, I hope.
And we have no council today?
No, Jeff was coming, he just sent me a text, he got on a settlement conference with the judge that he thought would be done way earlier, and
Oh.
it wasn't. He didn't have a report though today, so,
He did?
did not.
He did not, all right. Well, on the San Diego County Water Authority, we had a very interesting meeting, a long one this last time, and Dennis has reported on several of it. A few things I'd like to add. The one thing, and you were asking Director Hernandez about how the level 3 comes about. Well, Metropolitan would be the ones who would decide if they're going to cut the allocations to us, and then we have policies set by the Water Authority that what that would do. But they are waiting until April to make their final decision, and at that point we will know, but it would not go into effect until July 1st. But the interesting thing about this drought is, even though it's an economically horrid thing if it happens, the fact is there is a real problem with water. Colorado River has gotten water, and they think they're okay this coming year, but they also are, because it's still in a drought, that the possibility is 2016 or 17 becoming problems with Colorado River as well. So we are in some really serious, I think we're in for some serious times, because it's just the snow isn't coming. They also would have a lot going on in the drought response, and that they give us a whole lot about all the things they're getting money for, more turf replacement. They made an interesting comment on the turf replacement. They said that it's not the most cost-effective way to conserve water, but their hope is, and what it does is it changes the minds and hearts of people. And this push for this is a lifestyle. That's, I think you're going to see that focus. And I don't know if you saw in the paper, in the UT, they have a new thing called the Drought Fighter. And you can ask questions, it'll be in there on what to do about the drought. And yes, sir.
Is San Diego County Water Authority reaching out to any of the other city agencies and suggesting, or if this thing really gets work, demanding you know, your lawn turf area can only be 1% of goodness knows what, or, I mean, when I mention that to our city, oh my goodness, they roll their eyes back in their head. And,
Well, you know what happened, I'm interrupted you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say at the State of the City address, Mayor Desmond got up and said he's actually the city is going to take out some of their grass and replant it with, drought-resistant grass. And I think you'll see that, and they're also talking about the incentive for the turf replacement. They're now thinking of changing, and they're in the process, I don't know if it's gonna happen, but they're hoping to put the focus on, it has to be, very visible. So if you wanna replace your front lawn, you'll get priority over the person who's replacing the back lawn, and if you're the,
Over the person doing the golf course.
yeah.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, they're really gonna start pushing so that it becomes a way of
Well,
changing
yes, and
thinking.
I
And they do
appreciate-
reach out to a lot.
And are they suggesting more than a reach out in the future? I really am surprised that some of the cities are still living in the 80s. And when you mention it, they talk about drought resistant plants, but if you don't, you can put some of that, but if you still want to put in your lawn, and I'm a Michigan boy, I'm a lawn guy, but I have converted, and voluntarily, I must probably say, but I'm to the point where volunteerism on that particular issue may need to be helped along.
Now, the city, it's interesting, it was probably, I'm gonna go back in time, 5, 6 years ago, give or take, when new regulations were adopted on retrofit over a certain size yard, commercial and residential. It had to go through a permitting process which approved the plant style, irrigation and all that. And what was interesting was when it went through the process, it was put under the jurisdiction of the cities as a land use agency, not under the water agencies that actually controlled the water, plus they have all the a little more intimate knowledge of some of that stuff. So we actually have just an agreement we did with San Marcos to where we're not at each other counterproductive, where we say, no, they only get this much water and they do this. There was a little bit of a push back then to say, okay, you can only have 5% of your property in grass. Or you've got to use this, or you've got to use that. There was a real big pushback on that from the people and from other regulatory and elected official standpoint of not wanting to tell somebody who owns their own house and lot what they can and can't do. And so the debates were everything from, well, hold it, if I can afford to buy gas at $7 a gallon and drive an 800 horsepower Corvette, who are you to tell me I can't?
Well, I got no sympathy for those, because I've been told what to do specifically.
Yeah.
So,
So
and,
to answer your question, it's been thrown out.
yeah,
And there is kind of a legal way to do it, which is called the water budget. But your water budget costs are phenomenal
yeah.
to track it. So,
When we have our joint meeting again sometime this year, perhaps we can put that on the agenda, because, the city is mandating lots of things that the homeowner has to do. If they're concerned about telling them how much grass, that's the end of the dog.
I reached out to Jeff from San Leon, sorry, to ask him if you guys were to spend a little more money up front with the new development and do these things instead of that. I can't remember what he told me the cost was per square foot, but he said it'd probably be an extra $3.50, give or take, per square foot to do what you guys kind of say, let rock, succulents, that kind of stuff, versus
Yeah.
I have a
purely money.
comment on that, but I believe Director Martin's first.
You brought up water budget, which I think is something in the future we need to look at. I understand there's massive costs to it, but I also understand that districts have done it. Irvine, a lot of them have done it, and it's the fairest way to actually look at water bills and what people pay. But it's more expensive to do, I understand that. But that's a cost that's passed on to the consumer. So,
That's a good, that's a good point. And if the water district's gonna take on responsibility, that's really how we can do it. We have to say it's gonna be the rates, we take on an expense to get it to that point, and then they pay it. It's a little harder for us to tell elected officials that they're gonna go tell the people how to plant their yards, and that's part of the problem. But I did, I did wanna say, I just lost it. You were talking, oh, I forgot.
Water budgets
No,
replacing?
no, it was before the water, oh, when you were talking about going to the communities, I was gonna say the Water Authority has reached out in all of the community papers. They have ads all the time. They have a huge list of people, cities, organizations, community groups, HOAs, that they have presentations to for anyone and anybody who wants. And we also are welcome to ask them to come up, and if it will help our staff in that capacity. They've just recently, they've done some joint, I think I was telling you, they did the joint thing about the turf, if you bought turf, that you would get a discount. Well, they also have some educational partnerships going with the California-friendly landscaping training and garden-friendly plant fairs, which is part of what this Home Depot is. And, you know, a few years back they did this, and we didn't have a very good response in North County. And so Home Depot withdrew a year ago, and they've gone back and talked to them, and now, because the water and all this change is going on, they're pushing it, and I was real excited to see Home Depot was willing to take it on. And I also understand at Hunter Industry, they have these classes to learn all about, I don't know the word they use, but it's kind of the learning to the water smart landscape things.
They might,
As well.
they're very involved in the
Very
industry.
well involved in it. They have a thing coming up, it's March 16th, which is called Fix a Leak Week. And they give discounts, through various companies will give you 10% off or $100 off to fix, up to, I think it's 100, fix leaks. And I know there's been other communities where they've had it. If you have a leak and you send your receipts into your district, and the district does a random draw, it'll have however, we have $500 to give away, a random draw, and pay for the leaks. Kind of gives us some brownie points and takes care of that. They've done a lot. And then I was also going to say they had, they have totally expanded what they do on social media. So I feel like the Water Authority is really working hard, but we do draw that line. Now, comment on developers, this one that's coming back, the Newland or Merriam. I happened to see a little thing on that, and it was interesting. They are building those homes. I thought this was very interesting. All of the outside park areas, they're going to go for grapes. And the homeowners association will have someone who will manage the grape fields and the strips, and then they'll take care of selling their wine, or they can make their own wine, or whatever they want. But that was very interesting for water. They are not putting in front lawns. All front lawns will be water home. And they're going to look into putting in rain barrels as part of the homes for rainwater harvest. So the developers, I think, really just need to grab this themselves, whether the cities tell them not to. Because if you go into it, I can't imagine it's as expensive as if you're trying to retro later.
Oh, newer's always cheaper.
Yeah. So that actually sort of impressed me on the project. I was like, well, at least they're thinking. Now we just get a few less homes, but so anyway, that was it. And then I want to tell you there's also something that ties right in with our outreach, and that is that, we had their, the poll that they did. They're doing a new poll, and they usually do them every other year, but they got a grant funding, so they're going to do a second one. And the first one was 1,000 people. It's 500 phone, 500 internet. And I did specifically ask them at the last meeting, I said, 1,000 people out of all of the county doesn't, how significant is that for applying to my own district? They did say that it's statistically and scientifically acceptable, and it depends on the question, what you're looking for. So I feel like even though it's only 1,000 people, and we're probably gonna do, how many are we doing in ours? 300 out of our district is a lot better, but what their new poll is going to be on is the willingness to pay for improved water reliability, which was one of the questions I think we removed. Their perception of the value of water. They wanted to know their awareness of their current water use and what motivates them to conserve. They wanted to also ask their awareness and acceptance of indirect potable and potable water. And then their understanding, of course, the water authority's role in the whole process. But I thought this poll kind of took the questions that we had eliminated from ours and would address them. So even though it's not as perfect as our own district, I think it would be a valid report. So I was very excited. They're in the process of doing that and are supposedly having the results out in April or May. So it kind of
It'll be
ties
a
in with
good
ours.
dovetail with what we get.
I think that's important, and it ties in with the age thing, and yes, sir.
It's just my own personal rant here, but it's disappointing that the first question I think you'd mentioned was they were gonna gauge the public's attitude towards paying more for reliable water resources when Californians just overwhelmingly approved a $7.4 billion water bond. And I think we were all, in my personal opinion, a little bit snookered that the way it was presented, and I think they took advantage of the water crisis that we're having. In fact, I heard a few of the officials at some of the conferences that we were at actually kind of joking about that, to never let a good crisis go to waste. There's no new water resources. I mean, we can build dams, we can dig holes, we can do all these things, but if there's no snow and there's no water to put in the holes, or it all means nothing. Where I would have rather taken that $7.4 billion. I think I mentioned jokingly myself in the past that, why don't we run a pipeline from the Columbian River into Northern California, and the infrastructure is already in place to go from Northern California to Southern California and actually have some water and solve the problem once and for all.
Well, who's to say
Now
the
they're-
Columbia River is always gonna have water?
Maybe not, but now they're asking the public's opinion if they would even spend additional money above and beyond the $7.4 billion. So I know they're just gauging people's attitudes towards it, but there's a reason why they're asking that question now, because they're gonna come back later and ask them to raise, taxes or whatever it might be.
Well, you hit the nail on the head, I think, Director Sinella. I really do believe that it really won't matter what we're willing to pay for. If the water's gone, the water's gone.
Yeah, because we're.
And the bond is way too small to take care of the whole thing. The bond really wasn't about producing more water. It was
Maybe it
about
should have been.
reliability. But public has no concept of that and what reliability means. So that's why you're seeing, we're lucky it passed it all. Will it be used wisely? Probably not the wisest for our particular district. But you make a very valid point, and I do
That's all,
think
just
this.
a little rant, since we're
No, I
talking.
think that's great. It's very frustrating. But at the same time, I think they're trying to find out if you are gonna spend money, and of course, everything's gonna cost more money. What are you most interested in? Is it the desal or is it reclaim? Did you have a comment, Director Martin? No, good rant.
Okay, thanks.
Totally understand
I feel
it.
better now, thank you.
Good, all right. Anyway, I just was excited that the public opinion poll fell in the same bracket as ours, and I thought that would be interesting. Okay, I think that is it from the Water Authority. Oh, and on Aqua, did you see your pictures in there? You've got you three gentlemen shaking hands somewhere. Where'd it go? I'll pass it around. Did you find it in there, Val?
I didn't see it.
It's, well, I just had it.
Where are we shaking hands at?
Do you remember where that was?
That's
Past the center. It has Vallecitos Water District. And then it shows, maybe this isn't the right one, maybe it was the last one.
I'll have to look. I don't remember seeing that.
Oh, here it is. This is probably the one from last time. This is, I'm sorry, California braces for fourth year of drought. This was January 23rd. Anyway, everybody there at the Water Authority brought me copies, because I'm in it as well, but there you three gentlemen are being sworn in.
Thought we were shaking hands.
Oh, yeah.
But
But that was very nice. They all wanted to know what we were doing. I said, well, we're gonna have 5 board members, so we have to get 3 more. All right, so the next item on the agenda is, what? I don't have my agenda.
Encina.
Oh, Encina, I'm so sorry, Director Hernandez.
We have not had a capital improvement committee since our last meeting.
Did not. Director Ella?
And we didn't have a policy and finance committee meeting, but we did both have a board meeting.
Yes.
How was it?
The 25th, really four major items. The board authorized staff to advertise or put out an RFP for a plant process automation study. That's to integrate all the various control systems, various ages, from what I understand, at the plant. Unify that all in one integrated system. They also authorized staff to advertise or put out an RFP for the 2015 ocean outfall maintenance and external inspection services, and that happens every 2 years.
Yep.
And so they're proceeding with that. They also awarded a contract to Corello Engineers for engineering services related to general process improvements at the plant, and that was in the amount of $246,864. The board also met in executive session to discuss labor relations, and there was no reportable action related to that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. All right, director's reports on travel, conferences, and seminars. Yes.
I did attend the CSDA Butcher Shop restaurant meeting. There was a great speaker, and all the other people elaborated on what he spoke about. But it was interesting. We had interesting people at our table. It always makes for great conversation, and they do such a great job at CSDA, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, Director
I also
Snell.
attended that same event, and the speaker was actually very dynamic, kind of a professional growth, leadership type of speaker, and that's what his speech was all about. And it was motivational, but it was also just a good refresher on some leadership skills.
And I also attended, and the young professional that was at our table was solar provider, engineer, sales, marketing executive, and there's still opportunity out there for the use of solar. The rebates are going to be eliminating for residential here in the next couple of years, but the big hook that was stymieing additional commercial development, I understand, has passed. The legislation has taken care of the tariff, if you will, on commercial development. So I know we still have 2 large areas out in Twin Oaks Valley that might be appropriate, so we'll see where that goes.
Well, I was also there. I was actually there for the Water Authority, but I wanted to make a comment on the speaker, David Berry. He did an interesting presentation on leadership skills, and he was taking the older generation versus the newer generation. We call them the boomers? No.
Millennials.
The millennials. And it was very interesting how he said, here's what they have to teach us, and here's what we have to offer them. And he had just a wonderful way of taking different issues and looking at both sides. I thought he was wonderful. Okay, if there's no other reports, there's a Aqua Spring Conference coming up in Sacramento that you need to let Diane know about. There is this at the Water Utilities tomorrow. The next 3 days. Water Institute.
Urban Water Institute.
Urban Water Institute going on in Palm Springs the next 3 days. And now we move to director's comments or future agenda items. Are there any?
Oh,
Director Martin?
I have one item. I would like to, on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, thank the people that showed up for the State of the City address. One thing I thought was interesting about the mayor's address is he did address that, we had that big plain area out in front of City Hall.
The grass area?
Yeah, the grass area, which is opposed to everything, when City Hall was built, everything stood for something. And there's little plaques, if you look around, that say what it stood for. And that stood for the Great Plains area. It used to be the grazing up in that area. And there's a plaque in the ground that says that. And he jokingly said, and he meant it, that only after 7 years of being the mayor and him harping on getting it changed, did it change. And it hasn't changed yet, but he's been on it for 7 years, so the earlier conversation about, well, let's tell the city council, it's not gonna work. So it takes a long time to get people to change. They have their own headaches, they figure water's ours, I'm guessing. But it was a great event. Your centerpieces were well received. A lot of small centerpieces, and it was
320 of
beautiful. A lot of people took them home with them. They loved it. They loved the little ad in it. It was good PR. Next year, if the board chooses to do it again, I would suggest that we have a PR table, because we do have a lot of people gathering there early. And they talk, and if we had a PR table or something, it'd be a good idea to have. And I think the chamber would let you do that. They don't let anybody else do it, but you guys have been great partners. So just want to mention that. And I do want to mention that there's a street fair coming up, and I've asked staff if we can have our water spigot that doesn't use water, but it looks like it's a continuous spigot. What do you call it? Do you call it the continuous?
I call it the magic faucet.
There you go, the magic faucet. That Vallecitos is going to have the magic faucet there. I think they're trying to, Director Sanella brought it up, rain barrels. If we have a rain barrel, maybe put one of those out there too. Just a
That's
thought.
what I forgot to ask Chris.
Yeah, because I don't think they got rid of all of them.
Yeah.
And I did want to comment that I didn't even know we were doing the rain barrel programs again, so I must have missed something I should have read, or were we informed we were doing rain barrels? I don't remember.
Yeah, we did it with the city again like we did last year.
No, but did we have a way of?
I would have to
finding
assume yes, but I.
out? Okay, I assume yes, I
Yeah,
don't read
yeah.
quite everything.
It was probably just an update.
And, oh, yeah, if you're making any bets in town, we are gonna have a dunk tank, with reclaimed water, from Meadowlark, which James is gonna bring up to us. James and Ed, they're gonna truck up that reclaimed water and use it for a dunk tank. But if you have any bets with anybody, it's gonna be a public dunk tank. Anybody wants to come and dunk somebody, you can get them to stand up, they certainly can. It's a good idea.
You know, it's funny, Director Martin jokes about it being reclaimed water, and I don't remember where the swimming pool was in San Diego, but long time ago, they had a community swimming pool down in San Diego. I'm not sure where it was exactly, but it was reclaimed water for years.
Wow. Yeah, huh?
That was probably that second primary.
And now they call it Lake San Marcos.
Yeah.
We're de minimis. Thank you.
Any others you have?
Yeah, just real quick, and Director Martin kind of hit on one thing I was going to bring up, but just kind of a social media moment, since I think I'm the only one that really looks at it. We did get a lot of good positive kind of hits on the plants, so that was great from the city address. And I too was leaving our finance committee meeting with Director Martin, and we ran into our PR folks that were just preparing for the rain barrel meeting or whatever they were doing, and it would have been nice to I don't recall hearing about it either, so not a big issue, but
That shouldn't be.
maybe in the future, maybe one of the board members might want to attend that as well. So, but I think it's a great thing to do, and if there are any leftover rain barrels, there might be an opportunity for little giveaways for stuff like at the street fair, or any of our other PR booths that we have at the number of the events that we participate in.
Yeah, so Director Martin asked for to bring one to the thing. Let's go to check on that. Okay.
I would like to just say, the rain barrel is very interesting. The Water Authority, one of the directors, just had her property done. She lives down near the airport in San Diego, and she had her property all done. It took her a year. She went with gray water from her laundry and the showers, and she put in the barrels. Now, I don't know, how big is our big brown barrel out over here?
1,500?
I don't remember.
I want to say 1,500.
Well, her house is a long, skinny house that sits right on a canyon. And it's just a kind of a very slow slanted roof. She has 5 that are bigger than that on her house.
On her house or under her house?
Not on it, but from coming off her house. And she says would be so surprised how fast you can fill them. And it was fun. It was Saturday, so I went down to see and got some information on who could come up here to because I'd love to do something like that. I was not expecting 5 of these. You know, she had cement laid for these. So she's got 2 kind of out in one side of the property, and then 2 kind of tucked under like a carport, or 3, but I was amazed.
It's a lot.
That's a lot of water.
Did they get filled with this most recent?
Well, I was gonna say, it was raining, and it had rained early that morning, and then it didn't rain, but at the end it started raining down there again. She said, oh, you can see it working. But, her whole property is done in, you know, native and succulent kinds of things, but
Nice.
I was blown away with the rain barrels. And then I just wanted to say a little amusing thing from Water Authority, and I think staff will especially get a kick out of this. We awarded a contract to RMC to do the consulting work for a 5-year contract for professional services regarding their IRWM program. They put out 741 solicitations. They got 6 companies to come to a proposal, and they got 1 response. And they were saying they're gonna do all they can to figure it out, but it said the markets in some ways are so specialized in what they need to do, especially with this, that they've used RMC before, it's done a lot, they've been very good at getting grants for them. But they said, you feel kind of funny saying we have one choice. So, but we granted them $1,674,000, and they have committed, not the company, but the Water Authority is going to try to go out and find more people, but it said the 6 came, and they look at it, and it's,
We have the same problem with
Very
with the North County group. We have the same problem. RMC's our rep doing all the IRWM there too.
yeah, I was just saying, it was just
Yeah.
incredibly, I didn't know there were 741 to solicit, but they made a point of totally soliciting. Well, I thank you. Are there any more comments?
I have one
Oh,
last
yes.
comment. I wanted to second Director Martin's comment from the State of the City address. I attended it, my first one. I was very impressed with the event. I think the Water District got a lot of favorable comments and press from in the mayor's address.
They did, and those were the best centerpieces because they were all these small little ones that everybody got a piece. Wasn't where somebody's fighting for it. It was excellent.
It was
But
a nice
glad we
event.
went.
Thank you.
The meeting is adjourned.